everyone. Today I have with me author Jodi Clark, and the book that I've read of Jodi's is called Mother Condemned, and I'm so happy to be able to talk to you, Jodi. Thank you so much for being with me.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it. I love what you're doing on Writing Fun.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. I love talking to authors, and I have to tell you, I didn't get a chance, so I order all these books, right? I mean, I have books coming to me all the time. And so I have to kind of decide from each author, what book I want to read, right?
Sure.
So I picked Mother Condemned from you. And so I had just finished an interview one night, and it's late. It's 11 o'clock. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to start Jodi's book. I had you in 2 or 3 days planned from there. And I was I'm going to start, I want to start reading it and get a heads up on it. And, go a couple chapters in and then I'll go to bed. Okay, I stayed up till 2 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
This book, I wish that I could see you in person because I would hug you because it's my worst, and we can only talk about it to a certain degree because there is no way that I want to ruin this book for anybody. But all I can say is that, you had me every chapter because I'm telling you, I'm tired, right? So I'm okay, one more chapter. And then I'm okay, one more chapter, and then I'm going to bed. And this book is not long, okay? So if it would have been 500 pages, maybe I could have talked myself into waiting till the next day. But it's short enough that you're just going, okay, one more chapter, one more, and then I'm I'm down to 3/4 of the book, and I'm okay, now I have to see how this. I can't even sleep because another problem is if it's late at night. I'm a mom. This book is called Mother Condemned for a reason. Okay, so as a mom, I'm emotionally invested in this book. Okay,
exactly.
And wanting to find out what happens to Laurie. I need to know what happens and. You did not disappoint me in the fact that you blew me away. And
oh, well, thank you so much.
And I loved the ending so much. And so everybody, just go get the book. That's all I'm going to say is that it will blow you away and you will be happy about it. So.
Well, that's very flattering. I'll tell you, that's an author's favorite thing to hear, obviously, is that, when I'm writing anything, that's my goal. I want to keep you turning pages. I want to keep you invested in the story. I've read so many books that are so long and drawn out, and it takes sort of a long time to get to the point. And I've always said my books are going to be shorter, but they will get to the point, and they will hook you. At least that's my goal, is to keep you hooked, invested, and keep you turning the pages where you don't really want to put it down. So
and you're absolutely right. I have read a lot of books, and if this would have been a 400 or 500 page book, I could have put it down because I would have been okay, whatever's going on, whatever. But I am finding out as the more books I read that I like that. I used to think it's really hard to write a short book, and I'm sure it is. Maybe it is more difficult, but you one chapter, I love Laurie. The next chapter, I'm that bitch. And the next chapter, I love her.
That's what I wanted you to do.
And, excuse my language, but that's exactly what's going through my head as I'm reading this. And when I got done, I was see, you don't need – my thing was always if you can't say it in 300 pages, you know what I mean?
Right.
There's a tough book after 300 pages. You're going to have to really catch me to say, oh, this is worth a 450-page book. But this book was perfect. It was absolutely perfect.
Well, thank you so much.
And,
I'm
I
very
can't
much
say enough.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I mean, that means a lot to me. That's what I look for with readers. I really want to keep their attention. I want to keep them invested. As I said before, I'm the same way. It's got to be a really, really fantastic story for me to sit through 1,000 pages.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard for me. It's hard for me to invest the time and my attention in a book that's just drawn out, and I've read half of the book before I really get the point of it.
Or become invested in the people. I found myself, it was instant investment in Laurie. And that's hard to do because sometimes you're into a book 100 pages before you feel any kind of anything into a character,
Exactly. And for me, that's just, I mean, I understand why authors do that. I do. But for me, it's hard to, keep my attention. I'm a mom and a wife, and I still actually hold a full-time job also.
Which is crazy.
My time
crazy.
Yeah, so my time is limited a lot of times for writing or reading. So when I do squeeze it in, I have to squeeze the shorter books in. I just can't, I could spend months reading a 500-page book.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And, I love finding writers like you that I didn't know about till I read, and I think I found you on Goodreads. That's where I find most of my authors, okay?
Oh, okay,
and
yes, I
think that's where I found you. Very, very few times do I find them on Amazon just because I don't look there if I come across it. But I'm pretty sure I found you on Goodreads, and they never disappoint me. Goodreads is so amazing because I find people like you that it's like you're not writing full time. Like you're a wife, you're a mom,
right,
like you said, and then you write this story that I'm like, what? Why is she doing anything else but writing stories?
I would love to be writing full time. That is my ultimate goal, of course. But until that happens, I do hold my full time job too. But obviously, writing is my passion. It has been for well over 20 years, at least. So I have 4 books out currently, and it's just what I love to do. It's my soul food, and I just can't imagine doing anything else. So,
well, is this your most current book? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, ma'am. It actually isn't. My most current is called Bleeding Panther, and it's basically a story about PTSD that's told through the wife's eyes, and what she experiences and her family does. So that's my latest, and I'm currently working on my 5th one, which is a little different from the rest. I'm trying to challenge myself with different story ideas, and this latest one is more of a softer kind of heartfelt book. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, I tell you what, Jodi, I will buy Bleeding Panther if you promise to let me talk to you again, because you're one of those authors that I want to keep talking to, like after every one of your books.
It's always a pleasure for me. It's always a pleasure, and
we'll just make it a shorter conversation. We'll just make it about the book, but I like to keep up on, and I'm telling you, you have I don't say this to very many people. You have a gift of story, and
thank you so much.
I just really that's why I started this, is because I wanted to tell authors, no, you can tell a story, and you have such an amazing gift, and I'm so blessed to come across you.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I'm so blessed to have people that are reading my books and following me and kind of supporting me. And so it's the greatest thing an author can have is somebody's support and compliment on their work, because it's, as they say, blood, sweat, and tears goes into each one. So it's nice to get the compliments back and to know that people really like what you're doing.
Yes. And so, so going back to the book, when you're thinking about Laurie, as your character, what were you, how did you come up with her story? To me, it's crazy. Okay. So I'm okay, I get to pick her brain. How do you find, is it a story that was rolling around in your brain for a while, or did you, just happen across it? I mean, what was the thought process?
Well, actually, truth really is stranger than fiction. I'll just start with that. A lot of my ideas are derived from news articles and real life. For instance, I saw a story about a child who was kidnapped, and I do the kind of what if analysis. Well, what if it was the mother? What if the mother was just accused, but she was really innocent? And so it sort of grows from there. I take a lot of my stories just from my surroundings and news articles and things that I see. I mean, we live in a crazy world, and as unfortunate as some of these things are, it makes for great storytelling. And so for me, I really do get a lot of my ideas just from reading different news articles and seeing things on TV, and unfortunately, the nightly news is a great place to get ideas. It's terrible to say, but it's true. So for that book, I mean, I had seen a story about this child who was kidnapped, and of course it wasn't the story that I wrote. It was a different circumstance, but it kind of gets me going, well, what if this, what if that scenario? And really, in several of my books, I sort of go as I write, as I'm writing, I'm sort of thinking of things. And when I started writing it, I didn't really know what the ending was going to be. And I just sort of started writing, and things were going on in my head going, okay, well, here's this scenario or that scenario. And that's kind of how I came out with the ending, was just as I was writing, I just was coming up with different ideas. And I find that I do that with all my books. So.
Well, yeah, and the reason I was saying, the way I loved how you wrote it is because I read a lot of thrillers, and I had just read one almost similar, it was like a child kidnapping one, and, it took different turns and different paths, but it was also a very good book. But with a, right away, okay, I'm a mom. It's your worst nightmare.
Absolutely.
It goes to your, the core of your every being, okay?
Absolutely.
And how you had her reacting, I kept questioning her reactions to, because I'm like, okay, so I'm a mom, and and I'm like, that's why I'm saying, like, every chapter I'm like, I like her. No, I don't like her. I like her. Because in my head I'm like going, would I be doing that? But the thing is about something like that is you don't know. You don't know what you would do. You don't know exactly what you think know.
Do you know how to act innocent? If you're innocent, I mean, if you're accused, like the book, I mean, I'm a mom too, so it hits me at my core as well. And I start to think as I'm writing, what would I do? What this could feasibly happen to somebody. I'm sure in the world it has happened. When your child goes missing or someone, kidnaps your child. I mean, the first one they're going to look at is you. I would imagine. So this is a very feasible scenario to happen. And I started to think, well, what if? What would a mother do? What would I do? And so as I was writing the book, it really hit me to my core, because being a mom myself, and I have a son, on top of that was, it can really hit home. And that's what I wanted to come across to. I wanted the readers, and especially, mothers and parents in general, but mothers especially, to read it, and I wanted them to feel what she felt.
Oh, and I did. I mean, it was crazy. And the only thing I could relate it to was that I have 6 children. And when I was young, I was young when I for my first couple of children, and my second son had gotten burned by my curling iron. He rolled on. I didn't know he could roll, and he pulled it down, and he had rolled on top of it, right? So at the emergency room, like I took him to the emergency room, and then they started asking me questions, and it blew me away, because I was so young, and I was like, he rolled in my curling iron. Well, what were you doing? And how was it? And they, and then they get another person in to ask me questions, and I'm like, okay, are you going to fix this burn? Like, why are we? But it's so, so that's what I kept thinking about, because as a mom, you're like, are you going to figure this out, or are we going to talk about, it was, it brought me right back to that moment, because I couldn't believe that somebody would accuse me of, burning my son on purpose. How ridiculous is that,
It's such a feasible, it's just such a plausible thing that can happen to somebody, and it's crazy, but as I'm writing, I'm thinking, this could really be reality for somebody. So hopefully it never is. But this is something that people can actually, I feel like, relate to, because it's something that could really happen to a mom or a father in life. And so that's what I was going for. I really wanted people to be able to relate and feel the emotions in it. And so hopefully I've captured that.
Oh, you certainly did. Now, for the police part of it, did you have firsthand knowledge of what they would do, or did you get help in writing? That you somehow, or what kind of research did you do for that?
I did do a little bit of research. I have some police officer friends, and I sort of went to them and said, okay, well, here's the scenario in my book. what kind of things, what kind of questions would you ask, or what steps would you take if you were to investigate something like this. And so I got some of the research from them, and some of it I just kind of researched online and sort of tried to see. I know different states do different things. They have different laws, obviously, and so I was just kind of just trying to do the best I could as far as what their procedures were. But I wanted to make it sound like they were very accusatory of her.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the biggest thing. I didn't really necessarily want it to be, I'll call it a fair investigation in the book.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted it to be sort of one-sided, and I wanted the detective, Frank Nelson, I wanted him to be sort of that brash, accusatory type of detective that really didn't want the truth. He just wanted to close the case.
Right.
So that's what I was going for.
Right. Well, you did a fantastic job. So, like I said, I can't recommend it highly enough. So, you have a publisher. Are you self-publishing?
I'm self-publishing. All four of them are self-published. Mm-hmm.
I was thinking that when I looked at it, because I was wondering, and the thing about it is that, I read both. I read both books, and I was like, a lot of times I can tell self-publishing, but that's why I asked you, because I couldn't tell. I can't tell with your book.
Thank you.
And the cover, which will be put up on the video when the video comes out. I mean,
mm-hmm.
that it's amazing. So I'm seeing that you probably then chose the cover since you self-published.
Yes.
You get to pick it out, and I mean it's.
Yes, I mean it's sort of as I like to call myself a starving artist at this point, because I've been writing a long time, but I have, the downside of self-publishing is you do a lot of things on your own. You don't have agents and publishers to sort of tell you what to do or guide you with your books. And so my years of writing have definitely been a learning process with each book. I have to do a lot of the work on the cover and the editing and things a lot on my own, and then send it to editors and try to get as much done as I can on my own. When you're self-published, that's definitely the downside of it, is you're kind of on your own to sell the book and to get the word out there. And that's the hardest part for me, is sort of, as an artist, you kind of need to boast on yourself a little bit, sell yourself. And I really have a hard time doing that.
Yeah,
so
well, I'm telling you,
part.
Right. And then the fact that I found it, because like I told you, I always go to the most popular, on Goodreads, it'll be like the most popular, or, like I'm always browsing. So the fact that it made that list must be so.
That's wonderful. I'm glad it did. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm seeing right now, I mean, I'm looking at my Amazon account, and because I pulled up Bleeding Panther, and you've got 4.5 stars with just only 5 reviews. I mean, that's amazing. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. There are so I really, for your future, I see, I talk to a lot of publishing people that they've said that the way of the world now isn't that. It used to be like you had to go out and you had to get a publisher, but now the publishers are understanding that they're having to go to the writers, because they look at the same list that I'm looking at, and they're seeing the same reviews that I'm looking at, and that's the most awesome part about it, because why should you need to just be writing and putting it out? Somebody will find you, and then it'll be on you, your terms.
Exactly, and really There are benefits to both. I mean, there certainly are benefits to having a publisher and an agent, and then there are certain benefits to being able to self-publish, because you sort of have more control, and your story sort of remains your own. You don't really have someone telling you what they think should change, and the story just stays your own a little bit more, and the control stays with you a little bit more. And so I really prefer to self-publish. For me, it just works. I know a lot of authors are starting to move that way. Even some that have publishers are actually starting to self-publish. It seems to be kind of the new thing. And for me, like I said, I've gotten great reviews on some of my books. I've been very fortunate with some of the reviewers. They really have given me great reviews. And as I've gone through different books, I've learned to do ebooks, and it's just been a learning process from everything with editing and the covers and the ebooks, and we're in a digital age now, and it took me a little while to get into that that part, because I'm a firm believer on the brick and mortar stores, and the books that you can hold and smell and feel.
Yeah.
The ebooks were hard for me to grasp, but I understood at the same time that that's the age we were moving into.
Yeah.
And so I had readers saying, I love that you have this book out, but I really would love it if I could just get it on my e-reader or something like that. So I had to move to that next step.
Well, and I'm always the exact opposite. I come across writers that only put them out as ebooks, and I'm like, please put out a physical copy to this book. I begged this one guy because he was a self-publisher, and I'm like, please get a cover and print this book for me. And he was like, okay, because I love the book itself, and I was like, you will sell more books, I promise. And then he did. So I hate, hate is a harsh word, but that I don't like about publishing companies is that, I have this one writer friend that I interviewed, and her new book is done, edited, but they're not putting it out till January 2018 because they don't have room in their quote-unquote thing. So she just has to sit around. She can keep writing, but her books are going to be waiting.
Right.
For me, I know that if it were me, I would not be good with that. I would be just put them out,
right, There's one other benefit of self-publishing. See, at that point when you're self-publishing, once you're confident in what you're putting out there to the public, you can release it and be done. You don't have a waiting list. You don't have to give someone else that control or their scheduling, getting in their schedules. And so I think that's part of the reason a lot of these authors are recognizing self-publishing. It like you said, it used to be if you weren't published by a publishing house, you weren't really looked at. And there's still some of that out there. I've come across that a few times with different literary agents. Some of them do prefer writers who are represented by publishing houses. But most of the time, they're becoming more accepting of self-published authors, and I really think you're going to see more and more of that.
Yeah, I do too. So you had another book that's going to be coming out soon?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm about halfway through it, so it's got to go through the rest of the writing process and editing. So I would say my goal is to get it out by the end of the year.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I just threw Bleeding Panther into my Amazon cart, and I'm going to be ordering it, and I will definitely and I will be begging you to come back on to talk to me about it because I already know.
I'd love to. I think Writing Fun is a great YouTube channel. I've watched many of the interviews. The Band of Brothers, I loved. Polygamous Daughters, I loved. So I watched a lot of your interviews on there, and I love the writing tips. So it's great. I'm happy to be a part of it and glad for the opportunity.
Thank you. Yes, Anna LeBaron. She's what I love to do is she's out on a book tour right now, and so I just keep posting all her stuff, and and that's what I want to do, for all my authors. It's when I get a hold of your things as they come out, I just want to put them out there, get them out there, get the, put the Amazon page out there, so people know, so everybody, it goes on my LinkedIn, it goes on my Facebook, Twitter, I put it out as much as I can, and
Wonderful.
That just lined up perfectly with her book tour, and so she's been getting a lot of, good things happening from it, and that's what I want to do. That is what my passion is, and it really helps me to talk to you about the books because it's I look at it like a virtual book tour because then people can listen to you talk about it without having to go see you at a bookstore. So
most definitely, and as an author, we really can't get. That's the best kind of advertising we can get is for a reader to come out and do a review or do an interview with us. I'm sure any author you talk to will tell you the same thing. There's no greater, advertisement, for lack of a better word, that an author can get. If one of my readers will do reviews or especially interviews, and they will kind of push the book for you. I mean, there's no greater thing than that for an author. That's the best thing we can ask for.
Wow, I am so blessed to have met you, Jodi. I am so happy to know you now, and I will be reading as long as you keep writing. We will be talking, and
sure,
and I will put all your links below this video so that everybody can just push a button and get right to you. And I wish you all the best in your next book. And please, let's keep in touch. And like I said, I have it already in my cart, so I'll be getting in touch with you really soon to work on the next
one.
Okay.
I look forward to it, and I appreciate the opportunity.